Peace, friends. I'm Tom Arthur, pastor of Sycamore Creek Church in Lansing, Michigan, and you're watching Our Daily Shelter. Amidst COVID-19, we are all sheltering in place, resulting in new stresses in our lives, but also new opportunities. This daily-ish live interactive video podcast is here to help you not only shelter in place, but shelter in God's grace. To find God's grace in your home and the practical situations we all find ourselves in each day these days. Or Psalm 91 verse 1 puts it, those who live in the shelter of the Most High will find rest in the shadow of the Almighty. In each episode of this video podcast, we get to know and learn from an expert in one area of stress we all know too well. We cut right to the chase. What's the one big thing we need to know or do to shelter in God's grace? You can join in the live Q&A by posting a question in the comments or by joining us on our live Zoom webinar at sycamorecreekchurch.org/ODS. That's Our Daily Shelter. And if you're watching on Facebook, would you share this video right now so that others can join in the conversation too and find a little bit of God's grace for today? Let's shelter in God's grace together right now. In the past couple of weeks, we've had more alerts sent to our cell phones from our state government than any other time I can remember. There's daily news from the governor's office as well as the Capitol, and the situation changes so regularly that it's hard to stay on top of it all. What's happening with local schools? Where do you go if you need help with unemployment, small business loans, or a list of who exactly is considered an essential worker? And all of this while our normal rhythms and habits are in disarray. To help us get a hold of our government today, I'm pleased to have with us a very special guest. Senator Curtis Hertel Jr. is with us today. Senator Hertel is the state senator of the 23rd District in Michigan, covering Lansing and East Lansing, as well as many other surrounding townships. He's a graduate of Michigan State University's James Madison College, and I personally find his regular emails and virtual coffees helpful for keeping up on what I really need to know about our state government and the resources available to help us safely navigate COVID-19. So, Senator Hertel, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate it.
Hey, before we get to the government and your role in government, we're just curious, where have you experienced grace amidst the stresses that we've all been living at, sheltering in place lately?
Yeah, so I will tell you that Easter is always a difficult time for me. I lost my dad on Easter 4 years ago, and he was one of my best friends. What I can tell you is that a year after, on Good Friday, amazing amount of things happened. It was really, I was angry at God at that point. I'm not sure if that's okay, but it's certainly true.
That's fine.
Well, I've had different people tell me different things. I don't know if it matters I don't think it matters if it's okay or not, because I just know that I was.
That's how you felt.
And that weekend, 4 or 5 different things happened to tell me that my father was okay and that God's grace was with me. They're crazy stories. The first one, actually, my dad was a former Speaker of the House from Detroit, and a man came into my office and told me that he was there just because he heard I was a good person to talk to and needed some advice. Didn't know my family history. And he was sitting there, and out of nowhere he said, I just bought a desk. It belonged to the Speaker of the House in the 90s. And that was my father's desk. And he showed me a picture.
Wow.
And, every hair on my body just stood up. And I cleaned out my dad's desk, so I remember it very specifically. And he sold it to me for what he bought it for. He bought it on Craigslist 2 weeks beforehand. Didn't know at all that it was my father's old desk.
He bought your dad's desk on Craigslist.
Yep. It was It had been sold by the state, and then someone else had bought it, and someone else. But he was a third owner, and so I bought it from him. And when I'm sitting at my desk in my office, I sit at my dad's desk every single day. And
Wow.
so that and 3 or 4 other things. If I told you all of them, I might even sound crazy. To the point where in the final one, I pulled over on the side of the road and was crying and just said, "It's enough. Like I don't, like I don't need any more. I appreciate it. I'm okay." And it was because at some point it becomes so much that but
It was
yeah,
like an
so
overabundance of grace.
absolutely. So Easter is always difficult, but it's less difficult than it used to be.
Yeah.
And so that that's really um, where I find grace in that, and the fact that we're all in this together. At the end of the day, it is everything that we choose to do affects those around us, and if there isn't uh, a better explanation of Jesus's message and love your neighbor than that, then I don't know what it is.
Yeah. One thing, you do your virtual coffees from that same spot, and over your shoulder there are these pictures. I assume those are of your family and loved
They are.
ones, and just the word thankful there, and that how important those practices of gratitude are amidst even these stressful moments like that. And in your case, thankful that you've got your dad's desk.
Yeah.
That's
His
just,
picture's actually right above me,
is it?
right there.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no, when we were trying to decide where to set this up in the house, this is not my normal workspace in the house.
Yeah.
But when we were trying to figure out where to set this up, one of the thoughts was to do it in a place where there was good reminders of what's important. And
Yeah. Yeah. So there's intentionality behind that.
absolutely.
Yeah. I'm not in the place I usually work at either. It's, I feel like we've all become teenage YouTube stars in
That's
the
right.
last
That's
3 or
right.
4
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doing these things from our
I always
bedroom.
wanted to be a YouTuber. Yeah, that's perfect. Okay,
Yeah.
later on, I'm Skyping my Fortnite account.
Well, if you're into Minecraft, my 6-year-old and 9-year-old will be right there with you.
I got plenty of kids. I have 4 children, so
Wow.
we
Okay.
definitely have some Minecraft players in the house.
All right. Do you have kids still in the house, or
Oh, all
are
4 of my
they?
kids are still in the house. Yeah,
What are their ages?
my oldest is 15. My youngest is 8.
Okay. Well, you are right there with us, trying to
Yeah,
be a parent and and working. And
it's
wow.
it's fascinating. I think we've had more child and dog interruptions in the middle of Zoom calls than almost anybody.
Well, I'm waiting for one of them to come running through here. All
I'm
right.
sure they will at some point.
Which that
They've all been
happens.
instructed when the times are to avoid this area, but I
Yeah.
mean,
You don't
every
have
once
a
in a while they come.
live on air sign above your.
Yeah, that'll be good. That would be good. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Senator Hertel, it's good to just hear that you're a human being like the rest of us. Although you have a unique role right now, and that is as our state senator. So we've just been having different guests on the show here. Most of them in our church or in local churches that we're familiar with, and people who are experts in a way that I'm not an expert, and you're an expert in the government in a way that I am not. And so what's the one really big thing that we need to know about government, about our state government, while we're all sheltering in place?
Well, I think 2 things. Sorry, you asked for one, but the first is that
When Jesus was asked for one, he gave 2 answers too. So
the first is that we're still working. My office is still working, trying to help people during this crisis. Ed on my staff has actually become an expert in unemployment because that's the most often call that we get. So if people have questions, 517-373-1734 is our office number. You'll have to leave a message, and then those messages are emailed to us, and then we farm them out to staff in order to get them handled.
mm-hmm.
But we want to be that resource for people still. We want to still help people. And so I think the fact that government's still here, I know that some people see government as a limiting agent during this, but we can also be a helpful agent.
Mhm.
And my office is certainly available for that.
I know that
Um,
your staff was super responsive in us reaching out to you about being a part of this. And I think that all of us in kind of leadership up front situations are finding how important our staff are behind the scenes.
I am very lucky to have very good staff. Sarah, who does my calendar, is excellent. Ed, who usually does most of our constituent work, is pretty much doing mostly unemployment issues. Lauren, who usually does a lot more policy, is doing constituent issues. And my chief of staff is the best in the state, Kathleen. So we're very lucky to have great staff, and we even have interns who were working for free for experience in the office. That don't have to, but are staying on right now because they want to
Wow.
be helpful to people.
Wow.
So I really do think that, that's a big, huge thing. The government, while I know can feel limiting right now, there are those of us that want to help. So please reach out if you have questions. And I do almost all my own social media. So when
Okay.
you're looking at people, our Facebook and our Twitter, that's usually me who's doing that. So certainly the person giving responses. So if you have questions or comments or concerns, get them to us in all those different ways.
Hey, I just noticed real quick a question come up to give us that phone number again. So could
Yeah,
Jeremy,
it's
can you listen to this and type it in the chat section or the
yep,
comment section?
517-373-1734.
Say that again.
517-373-1734.
All right. Well, if people
So
didn't get that, we'll come back to it later. But
perfect.
yeah. So
Uh,
you said that was the first thing. The government is still working. You're not. This reminds me. Our bishop said that for pastors, this may be a Sabbath, but it's not a sabbatical.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah, I mean,
The pace has changed, but this is not a like 3-month vacation
yes, exactly.
or however long this is.
Um, and so that's the first thing. The second thing is, as frustrating as I'm sure some people are with some of the aspects of the orders, what we're doing is working. When you look at the curve, there are two numbers that come out every single day. The first one is the number of new cases, and the second one is the death rate. The death rate's obviously important, and we should remember that and honor those people that have lost their lives. But the number that we should be looking at every single day in terms of where we are is the new case rate.
Mm-hmm.
And those numbers originally were doubling every 2 or 3 days. Now it's taking more than a week for those to double.
Okay.
And so that's a very, very good thing, and shows that the curve itself is flattening along the way. And you don't want to look at any one day's number because something could have happened at a lab or anything else.
Mm-hmm.
I try to look at 3 or 4 days in a row. And if you look at the last week, we've been around the same number, which is suggesting a plateau, which would be good, which would mean that we actually can beat this back and get back to some semblance of normal sooner.
Yeah. How accurate is the testing right now in the state?
Well, that's a great question. I would say, I've looked at it's accurate in the sense that we know those people have it, but is that a good view of what everybody else has? When you talk to epidemiologists, they will tell you that for every case that there is tested positive, there are somewhere between 12 and 100 cases out in the community.
Okay.
So that's the hard part, is that we have no idea in many ways how many cases there are out there, because we don't have, Iceland is testing 13% of their population right now.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a robust number of tests, a very small population, fairly easy to do. In a country like ours, we're unlikely to ever get to that number. So you're right. And this disease is so insidious. It is almost a perfect disease for spread and to cause casualty, because it does a couple things that are really fascinating. One, you have a large number of asymptomatic people that will get the disease, walk around, not know they have it. And while many diseases you can get, and if you're not symptomatic, you can't spread, that is not the case here. So it's a disease that spreads even when people don't have symptoms. Very strange. not normal for a lot of diseases. And then go beyond that, and it spreads very, very easy. It is a high spread virus. And on top of all that, it even when it is symptomatic, it presents different symptoms in different people. It seems to attack directly what our weakness or underlying condition is. That is, again, very strange when it comes to a virus. In many ways, it is perfect for the level of spread that it has and its differing abilities to attack.
Yeah.
So that's why it's so dangerous, I think, and why while some people in their 70s or 80s will get it and will survive and not end up on a ventilator, while others will be in their 20s and 30s and will end up on a ventilator and even die. And that doesn't make any sense, right? You would think a person who was older was weaker for other reasons, but it seems to find different ways. So that's really it's a very strange virus, and it's the reason why it is spread across the entire country and the world, because there are so many different factors in this virus that really point to why it was able to do that. It's a very strange situation we're all in.
Yeah. I heard you say basically these two things that we need to know about government are that first, government is still working. Your staff, and yourself are working hard. And secondly, that what we're doing is working, and that there's some hope. We're seeing that perhaps that curve is bending down to plateauing, which is some good news. We're thankful for that. Friends, you can post your comments or your questions in the Q&A, and our executive producer, Jeremy, is following those discussions, and he'll bring them to Senator Hertel in a moment. Senator Hertel, what else do we need to know? Now you get to go on to number 3 or 4 if you want to. What else do we need to know about government while we're sheltering in place?
I think that the most important part of government is that we're still listening. I think that people have comments and concerns and questions, and I think that there's a lot of misinformation that's out there right now. Social media is a great thing in some ways because we get to do things like this and talk to people. It also spreads false things very quickly. Like, I'll give you an example. There was a picture that was used in a news story that was a stock photo of the governor signing a bill that was used to say, that was used in the same story of the shelter-in-place order and the 6-foot requirement. And it said, well, people went online and said, well, look, the governor's not even doing this. Why would we do it if the governor doesn't do it? Well, in reality, that photo was taken in January. Didn't have anything to do with right now, but it spread very quickly. There was over the weekend, a story went viral over car seats. There was a misunderstanding at one store in Michigan, where one person was denied buying a car seat because what somebody misread in the executive order. Now, that the executive order clearly does not prevent anyone from buying a car seat.
Okay.
But that got so
You're talking about
viral.
a car seat for kids?
Yeah.
Okay.
That got so viral that Meghan McCain and Senator Ted Cruz were tweeting about it across the country from one store, one person doing that. That's how quickly misinformation can spread. So I think that's part of it too, is that we're listening and try to find trusted sources. My office, we send out probably 2 emails. We send out 2 emails a week on updates on this. We do a daily, every executive order we post, and we try to answer questions for. The governor's office has frequently asked questions that they try to put on those pages. We have a weekly coffee hour, 9 a.m. on our Facebook page every Friday, and we answer pretty much spend the entire hour just answering questions from the chat. So there are places to get trusted news source. if you get a meme, please Google it first.
Yeah.
In all honesty, there are resources out there to try to figure out if these things are true. I think don't be part of the problem of sharing information that turns out to be false.
Your story there reminds me, and I hope I'm not passing on wrong information, but I think that there was like a sort of rumor of a Hamilton sing-along or something this weekend where all the original cast was going to sing along, and you got to sing along with Hamilton, and
So that'd be cool.
it got bigger and bigger and bigger, and then eventually Lin-Manuel Miranda said, "I don't know where this rumor came from, but there is no Hamilton sing-along."
Yeah, I watched the Indigo Girls playing from their front room. I mean, like it is interesting the things that actually do happen. But yeah, I mean, that's an example of non-harmful information. I mean, it's sad that we couldn't see Hamilton, but I think that when it comes to factual information and when it comes to those things, I mean, I think we just got to be careful there to be providing information that actually is true.
Yeah.
Apparently there's some rally against the orders this week on Wednesday where people are driving up to the Capitol building, and I'm honestly people are allowed to disagree and allowed to have dissent and all those things. Those things are important. I hope people will do it in a safe way, maintaining distancing for their own sake. And also, in that case, I'm a little worried because there's a hospital 2 blocks away, and I'm hoping nobody blocks any routes or anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to get that information to the organizers and say, listen, here, you just be careful because, Sparrow Hospital is 2 to 3 blocks from the Capitol building, and it has, we have people trying to get in.
Yeah. On the positive side, we're going to get to questions just in a moment, Jeremy, so get ready for them. But on the positive side to this whole being online thing is I have had good intentions to come to one of your face-to-face coffees for probably a year or two. You send out those emails and I'd put it on my calendar, and then something would happen or my own sort of slothfulness would get the better of me. But the first time I finally made a coffee was a virtual coffee with you. So there is a way that this, what we're doing here in social media makes us connected and gives us opportunities that
absolutely
overcome those obstacles. Hey, Jeremy, our executive producer, has been monitoring the Zoom Q&A and the Facebook comments. So Jeremy, what questions do folks have for the Senator?
Well, first of all, good afternoon, Senator. Nice to meet you, and go green.
Go white.
So we've got a lot of questions. One is where would we look for positive truth-telling stories? And you kind of already alluded to how people can get resources. But I had a question here about, it appears that the federal government is working together. How is the state of Michigan working together to help in this crisis?
I have an enormous amount of respect for my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, and we have good relationships. Mike Shirkey, who's the Senate Majority Leader, we probably disagree on lots of things, but we have, my wife and I have dinner with his wife once every few months. We sit down and we have real conversations. And in general, I think that the legislature and the governor have worked well together. I think this last order has had some pretty extreme comments from the other side, and that worries me because I think it's always okay to question, and we should be questioning. At the same time, when you use certain rhetoric, I think it encourages people to violate the order, and the more we don't practice the measures of social distancing, the longer we're all going to be in this. Every action is one of those perfect situations where we are all in this together in many ways. So I would say, in general, we're working together well. We're working well with the federal government. I talk to Congresswoman Slotkin, who's my congresswoman, on a regular basis. I think we got to avoid some of these political fights, some of that vitriol, because I don't think it helps anybody in this crisis. I think we need to spend more time listening and be thoughtful. But I think it's true in government in general. I think that one of the biggest problems we have in government is that the listening has stopped. and that you can live in a world of your own bubble, right? So if you're a conservative, you can live in your own bubble, and if you're a Democrat or a liberal, you can live in your own bubble. And that's really dangerous because it means that we're not talking to each other, and that it's just reaffirming the same thoughts over and over and over again. I force myself to turn on the other side and listen and try to understand what people are saying, try to understand the arguments. And that doesn't mean I agree with them, but it's very hard the assumption is made often that the other side is evil. And it is impossible to negotiate with evil. It is impossible to fix things with evil. So we have to stop that and realize most of my colleagues are good people. I don't think they're evil. I think they're wrong. I think there's a difference between evil and wrong. We have to accept what that is and actually figure out where the spaces we can find and work together.
Reminds me, I'm actually on Thursday, I'm interviewing a different group of people, two women who have a podcast called Pantsuit Politics. It's not on this particular, we're not doing this. It's for something else entirely that I'm doing. But their book that they recently published was called I Disagree With You, But I'm Still Listening. Grace-filled conversations I can't remember the subtitle exactly, but that's what I hear you saying. Jeremy, do any other questions we want to pitch to the senator?
Well, Senator, let's give a more lighthearted one. What's it like to have a senator or a Senate meeting in Zoom? Have you had one yet? What's that like?
So my only Zoom meeting, we've had some caucus meetings in Zoom. I have my appropriations members always meet together over Zoom right now. We actually had I don't know if this is supposed to be public, but I don't care. We had a caucus happy hour over Zoom, just an hour together just to see each other's faces and to talk to each other. Some of us had adult beverages, some of us didn't.
Senator, we're the church that does church in a pub, so you're not.
I love it. Well, I do. I'm the senator that has happy hours where instead of coffee hours, we do coffee hours too, but we do happy hours at bars all the time. And
yeah,
the whole point is I think this is the message you're trying to do, is to reach out to people in new and different ways.
Yeah,
you wouldn't find if Jesus were here now, he wouldn't be hanging at the. He wouldn't be at the church. Like, he might stop at the church, but most likely he would be at the bars and the places where the other people are, where the masses were.
Well, none of us are at the church buildings anymore.
That's right. Yeah. So yeah, we are certainly having those conversations. Everybody's got a little. Here's the thing. I'm sure people expect me to come on these podcasts in a suit. I don't have dry cleaning available for the length of this thing. So no, I'm wearing sweaters and jeans, and so we're all a little hairier. Usually my hair's. I try to avoid looking too bald by shaving the whole thing instead of whatever this is. But I have somebody do that usually, and I haven't done it at home. I didn't shave this morning. I shaved yesterday. So we're all right. Conserving more.
The resolution on the video isn't enough to see your stubble, so you're
good there. It's not enough to see the rest of my hair too. I have a little bit more than this is that I'm showing.
So. One of the things I think I'm going to do is when this is done is go get my hair cut. That'll be one of the first things.
I think that is one of the most interesting things is what do you miss, right? Like what are those things that we take for granted that we can do every day that we miss, and maybe this gives us a little more gratefulness at the end of this, of the things that we're able to do.
Yeah.
In much of the world, people don't get to do the things that we get to do, right? Like the idea that we just get to go to a movie or go out to eat or have those abilities. There are people every single day that have reasons why they don't get to do those things. And we get to. So maybe at the end of this, we're just a little more grateful for those things that we have.
Yeah. One of our blind participants, by the way, just commented that you look fine. So
that's excellent.
Yeah. Hey, Senator, how can people keep up with you past this podcast today?
So I gave the office number, but I would say the biggest way that people can keep up with us is to follow our page on Facebook, Senator Curtis Hertel. and follow our Twitter account, which is at Curtis Hertel Jr. or at Curtis Hertel Jr. And so I would follow those things. Those are the best ways to keep up with us. The email is Senchertel, SENCHERTEL at senate.michigan.gov. I don't know if Jeremy, you could get all that. That's hard. That's a harder one.
I think he probably just went out on the internet and copied and pasted
Perfect.
it.
Yeah, we'll do that. We'll do that.
Yep, that works even better. And that way you can also send us an email and sign up for our newsletter if you'd like to get that. Or if you
I will say that your email newsletters are very helpful.
Thank you.
And the information that's in them, I feel like it's something that I can, if somebody was asking, where do you get accurate information? And I think those emails, as far as I can tell, I mean, I think that's your job, is to provide accurate
Our job is to
information.
provide accurate information to people. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
And we try not to slant it. I mean, I don't want to, I'm going to give you what I think sometimes, but I'll tell you when I'm giving you what I think. And we're giving factual.
Yeah. A lot of it is just like resources. Here's a link.
Yeah.
Here's a phone number. Here's the details of this order or whatever.
We want to give people as much real information as possible. We know that there's information that's not accurate out there. We want to give as much accurate information as possible.
Well, Senator, we deeply appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. And we thank you. I mean, I know this is a job for you, but it also is at its best, I think, a public service to us. So thank you for your public service in that way.
Thank you.
We didn't have a chance to talk and navigate through this last question here, but based on what you said earlier, I'm going to think that it's probably okay for me to ask how we can pray for you right now, and to take a moment and do that.
I think one of the most interesting and best parts of my job is the people that do that from around the state. We get messages all the time on that. And so, no, I strength, grace, all those things would be appreciated.
All right. Well, friends, if you're listening or watching, I just invite you to join me along in praying for Senator Hertel right now. God, we give you thanks for the senator and for the gift that he has been to us today, and the ways that you have shown up in his life in seemingly random ways, like him getting to work at his father's desk, through somebody who bought that on Craigslist and another owner. And we thank you for the ways that you give us those little surprises. And God, in this time where the senator is in a unique place to provide leadership for us all, in a situation or a setting that is often very contentious, where we do pray for strength and for grace, that as he works with all people, whatever political persuasion they might be, that you might use him and give him the gifts and graces he needs to help us to continue to serve us, and especially, Lord, to serve those who are on the margins in our state, those who are perhaps affected even more deeply economically and so on by the current circumstances. We lift all of these things up to you in the name of Jesus and in the power of your Spirit, and all who agreed said, Amen.
Amen.
Hey, friends, there's a couple things that I want to share with you, but first, would you take some time to give Senator Hertel some love and some thanks in the comments section? And we want you to know that our daily shelter continues tomorrow at 3 p.m., getting another perspective on the question, is God still good? Pastor Paul Hom is going to be with us. Paul's the pastor of Grace United Methodist Church, and he is a graduate of Drew Theological Seminary in Madison, New Jersey. Besides being a great pastor, leader, and thinker, he's also a deep friend of mine, or a close friend of mine. He and I have been known to close down bars talking about the deep questions of life. So join us as two pastors and friends talk about this deep question that's on many people's minds these days. How can God be good when there's so much suffering, especially in COVID-19? Right now, we all need to stay connected, connected to something bigger than ourselves. And Sycamore Creek's been busy building online environments where we can find daily connection points with God and others. So stay connected with us right now through our digital connection card at sycamorecreekchurch.org/connect. Don't shelter alone. Connect with others and God at Sycamore Creek. Friends, you've been watching Our Daily Shelter, a daily-ish live interactive video podcast and ministry of Sycamore Creek Church in Lansing, Michigan. In this time of sheltering in place, we think it's important to connect with the community. So find community every Sunday at 1 p.m. in a live interactive worship event at sycamorecreekchurch.org/SL-worship. That stands for South Lansing Worship. Or every Monday night in a church-wide video chat open to everyone at sycamorecreekchurch.org/allchat. You can connect with us and we can connect with you through our digital connection card found at sycamorecreekchurch.org/connect. Submit prayer requests here on this topic or really any topic, or by email at prayers@sycamorecreekchurch.org. We've got a team of people who are praying for you daily. Download and check out our app by searching for SCCMI in your app store, and you'll find lots of great resources there, including past and current sermons. You can also join the mission of Sycamore Creek by giving financially through the app or at our website, sycamorecreekchurch.org. Your generosity helps make resources like Our Daily Shelter available for free. Take a moment and like and follow us on Facebook and share this video with your friends so they can find daily shelter in God's grace too. You may be sheltering in place, but we're here to help you shelter in God's grace. Make your home a shelter of the Most High.